Welcome to Now Innovating, a research to impact series of the University of Calgary. I'm your host, Julia McGregor. This episode, we'll be discussing transdisciplinary scholarship and innovation. I speak with Dr. Greg Welch, one of the inaugural Institutes for Transdisciplinary Scholarships academic co-leads in Energy Futures. Greg also holds a UCalgary Research Excellence Chair and is a professor in the Department of Chemistry in the Faculty of Science. His research group explores advanced functional materials and coatings that can be applied to different applications in energy, cities, and health. Hi, Greg, and welcome to Now Innovating.
Hello.
I'm really happy you're joining us today. We're having an early morning here, but as we're waking up, can you just tell our audience a little bit more about really what is transdisciplinary scholarship at the university and your role as an academic co-lead in Energy Futures?
Okay, well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here and talk about the Institute of Transdisciplinary Scholarship. That's a big question. What is transdisciplinary scholarship?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really moving beyond the university, asking questions that society, what do they need, what are their problems, and how can we answer? How can we solve their problems? So transdisciplinary scholarship would be beyond interdisciplinary. So I look at it as at the University of Calgary, we work in the faculties, and within these faculties we have departments, and often we're siloed. I'm a chemist, so I do chemistry. But I can do interdisciplinary research, and I can work with biochemists, I can work with geologists within my faculty. But then we start moving beyond the faculty, and it broadens it, so I can work with engineers, but often that's quite similar to what we're doing. But then even further now, moving beyond and working with the Faculty of Medicine, working with people from the Faculty of Kinesiology, it really starts to expand into this unknown, really beyond what we're trained to do. And it's quite creative. We get we create new ideas, we start solving new problems. Then we got to think beyond the university. And that's where the transdisciplinary comes into play, is moving beyond academics, really having the city, the province, the nation start influencing what we do in the lab.
That's a great answer. Thank you. I know a lot of people are generally confused too, between difference between interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, and then the transdisciplinary lens of this piece. So thank you for that background.
But I'll just interrupt briefly there. The one thing that I'm trying to do, and I think we have a great team in the Institutes of Transdisciplinary Research, is try to stop with those definitions.
Yeah.
Because really all science, all research, well, I'm a scientist, so I'll say science, but all research, everyone's really doing great stuff here on campus in Alberta, across the nation. They're doing great research, and often things have been labeled. But I think with transdisciplinary research, you want to move beyond those labels and just allow for the newer generation, for the younger students to see that there is these connections beyond academics, and everyone's doing it. But how can we raise awareness of what people are doing, and how can we really move beyond just an academic institution? So hopefully this transdisciplinary name starts to encompass everything that's going on campus and beyond. And
I know we just said about not defining things, but when we're looking at an area of focus of Energy Futures, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think exactly what it says is the future of energy. And what is that? And this is where, if anyone is still confused about what transdisciplinary scholarship is, we're thinking, what is the energy landscape 15, 20, 25 years from now? Not today. I mean, today we're still dominated by fossil fuels, oil and gas. Hydrogen has emerged as a new clean energy technology, which is fantastic. There's a lot of talk about batteries, and that's today. But what is it going to be in 15, 20 years? And we don't know. But that's why we need to engage beyond the university. So engage the public, engage governments, engage your neighbors. What do they think? A lot of people are not in tune with the university system. They just have regular 9-to-5 jobs. I shouldn't say regular. They have important 9-to-5 jobs. But they aren't really in tune, and they just kind of go with the flow. But I think with this rapid change in the world, as we've globalized research, we've globalized the stock markets, everyone can invest. There's all these crazy new technology. What is going to stick in 15, 20 years? So that's what we're trying to do, I think, with Energy Futures, is think about that, ask those questions. We don't know. I don't know. But if we can get a general feel, then we can start seeing what are the barriers, what are the challenges. And then within our academic programs, not only our teaching, but our research, we can start to solve those. And then so in 15 and 20 years, we don't have the situation we're in today where there's this big polarization of energy. Do you go electric? Do you go fossil fuels?
So how do you find innovation fits into transdisciplinary scholarship?
So as we were discussing prior, before the cameras were on, what is innovation? And I think innovation is again, quite a broad term. Everyone's innovating, right? Everyone is always innovating, trying to do better. And that's what I see innovation as. But specifically, if you want to start putting definitions, I look at it as entrepreneurship, commercialization, moving lab-based discoveries to impact beyond academia. And I feel the institutes of transdisciplinary research can help that with entrepreneurship, commercialization, moving discoveries to society in a shorter time frame is just through connections. And that's really what we want to do. A big part of it is connect people. Have people from the Faculty of Science meet people from the Haskayne School of Business. And not just faculty members, it's the students. It's always about the students. I think a lot of us have identified the students as being the most important. So how can we create programs or even just a seminar series all the way down to workshops or just coffees with people connecting them? Get the medical students talking with the science students, get the engineers talking with the kinesiologists. Again, I go back to the business people. I mean, they're the ones that can really drive it. They understand the markets. I just get them talking. So that's really what we want to do. And I think that can help shorten the time frame from lab-based discoveries to real impact, or even help us guide us. What do we research?
So not just looking at the faculty level of like wanting to engage like the whole student population in transdisciplinary scholarship.
Everyone.
Amazing.
Yeah, we actually had a great event back in September. It was a fall gathering, and it was really just about engagement, talking with people. But we met some people within the teaching stream, and they were asking, what role do the undergraduates have? Because there's a lot of talk about research and graduate-based research. And I think the undergraduates have a huge role. Is how can we even start to change how we teach? How can we even just enlighten the first years about different career pathways? Tell them, yes, you're going to get a science-based degree, but along that way, we want you to go meet these people from the Haskayne School of Business, develop those relationships. Because every good company, high tech, you need a CEO and a CTO. And I'll be frank, scientists are not good CEOs, right? We are not good CEOs. We try, but it's difficult. We need those business people to help us out. So on that innovation underneath to entrepreneurship, it's connecting the dots. And we do it hopefully at first year, all the way through to the postdoctoral level.
Greg, with your own research, could you give some examples of how like this does apply to energy futures and relates to like, or are there any actual like transdisciplinary examples of projects that you're working on currently?
Certainly, I'll say within the Faculty of Science Department of Chemistry, there's a lot of amazing research going on. A lot of people are innovating. A lot of people are commercializing and doing a very good job of it. Within our lab, we've received a lot of attention on our research because it's very personal. We make these little widgets, a flexible solar cell, a flexible LED, some sort of smart sensor. People can identify with that. It's not a big machine. It's not a small molecule. It's a little widget. To quote Professor Larder, who's really created this innovation ecosystem, he's always talking about widgets and gadgets and stuff. And we've done that. But one thing we've done in our labs, we're material scientists, we make molecules. And internally, we've built up the capacity to create these devices in-house. And we've made these flexible solar cells, these flexible LEDs. But one of the biggest issues we've had is when we go to try to commercialize or try to showcase them to industry, they're not ready to adopt it. They don't know how to use it. And that's been a missing link for us. So while we're well funded and make great scientific advances and you have patents and you have these cool widgets and you can go to these innovation showcases, no one really wants them. So the Institutes of Transdisciplinary Scholarship has really created this program, this funding program, where you can get a small chunk of change to help bring faculty members together to kind of try this out. And we had a great project with Professor Marcus Samuel from Biological Sciences, and he operates the greenhouses here. And we integrated our photovoltaic cells onto his greenhouses. And this has been going on in Europe for quite a number of years, very successfully, but we wanted to do it here, see if we could do it here. with our crops, growing canola. It was really cool. Didn't really work. It was tough. We had some successes. We worked over the summer. We had some successes, a lot of failures, but we learned a lot. And during this process, we also had the funding and now the motivation to go out to engage for-profit greenhouses within Alberta to understand their needs. And that was enlightening to us because we learned a lot of what they needed and what they didn't need. So now we've kind of come back full circle and redefined some of our milestones and objectives. So while we didn't really push towards further commercialization, we learned some new problems. And that's, I think, a big win for transdisciplinary scholarship, is that it's connecting people and understanding that sometimes the stuff in your lab might not be what people want, but you're close. So you just got to tune that knob, press a few different buttons, and there you go.
Yeah, really understanding the problem and the need that's out there. Then just head down. I'm going to keep advancing this in the lab. Cool. That's awesome. I love that. I love that, it wasn't necessarily a successful project, but you had so many other learnings and outcomes that came from that as well.
Yes, but we also have to define success. It was completely successful overall. And I think so many research projects are always successful. It's what you define as success.
Right.
So certainly in terms of moving our PV technology a step towards commercialization, we did not do that, but we learned so much. We've actually figured out how to even simplify our systems to then have greater impact. And then the training was invaluable to all the HQP involved. They got to work in the greenhouses. We got to meet new people. We learned how to, growing these plants, I'll use my hands to talk a little bit because we were picking the leaves off the plants and figuring out plant growth. So it was a great learning experience overall. So it was very successful in that regard. And I think with the Institutes of Transdisciplinary Scholarship, we want that. It's just success and engagement, success and training. And that will lead now, I think, to commercialization of our technology, but just in a slightly different pathway.
Excellent. In your role as an academic co-lead in Energy Futures, and what do you really hope to encourage with innovation, entrepreneurship, across the university?
So I'm with a great team. So within the Institute of Transdisciplinary Scholarship, there's amazing faculty members, amazing administrators. Our leader, Stephen Bryan, he's fantastic, lots of energy. We're all on the same page, but I'll speak for myself because I'm the only one here. It's student engagement, student experience, connecting the dots, getting the students talking. What did they want? And already within our short time as academic co-leads, we've held multiple HQP events at the graduate student level to just figure out what they want. What do students want out of this? Where do they want to go? Do they want to start companies? Do they want to just go in the industry? Do they want to become lecturers? Do they want to get out of the academics altogether? We don't know. So we're asking those questions. So connecting those dots across faculties and then going out to the public and seeing what they want. And then when understanding what people want, then bringing them all together under some very focused strategic initiatives.
Yeah, who are the other academic co-leads in Energy Futures with you?
It's a real neat group of people where I'm a scientist, I'm a chemist, and I bring this kind of technology perspective. Doug, he brings this maybe more connected to the city aspect, where he has with the School of Architecture, their downtown campus, there's a lot of energy of what's going on, and he really brings an idea of how can you visualize energy. And then Sabrina, she's fantastic, brings us this amazing historical perspective of energy, of how energy has impacted Alberta over the years. How has energy impacted larger societies and cities, and how has it impacted rural communities? And then how are future energy technology is going to be integrated and adapted? So that's our team.
That's cool.
And it's very exciting, and we'll see where we go over the next 3 years.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing the initiatives that come out of that. You really are a champion for innovation entrepreneurship, I would say, in your lab. The mentorship and support that you've offered your students and your postdocs, I know there have been several startup companies that you've helped them commercialize their tech through. What advice do you have to other faculties who really support, their students and postdocs, with innovation?
Well, I certainly don't have advice for other people.
Okay.
I don't like giving advice.
Okay.
But I will speak to my own personal successes and things I like to do. And it's great. The University of Calgary does afford you an opportunity to do things you want to do. They give you some time and freedom to do that. So I'm very grateful to the opportunity the University of Calgary has provided. But what I like to do as new students is just showcase to them all the different career pathways out there. And I know myself, when I started as a chemist, I was in a traditional silo. I was making white powders, doing very fundamental research. We had a lot of success stories. But then during my postdoctoral fellowship, I went to the University of California, Santa Barbara. And that was just a mecca for materials science, materials chemistry, strong applications. And they had a great entrepreneurship program down there. Master's students, PhD students, postdocs, starting companies left, right, and center, many, many successful. And what I want to do is bring that here. And of starting out, you kind of have to grow your roots. You got to get going, the fundamentals, publish your papers, show that you can do research. But now that we've been able to do that, I like to bring in students and say, there's a lot of different things you can do. You can publish papers, become an academic. But also you can publish papers and then you can take it a step further and become an entrepreneur, and you can start a company. And a lot of them say, whoa, I can't do that. When you start a company, that's only for TV, right? And the Americans. But then you start showcasing some success stories out of chemistry. I'm a chemist, so out of science. And it becomes not so foreign. You kind of break the myths. And then a lot of them say, hey, I want to try that. And I think with my own research team, we've had, I think over the past several years, about half of them have been interested in entrepreneurship, innovation, kind of non-traditional career pathways. And that's where we're going. So no real advice, but what I like to do is just showcase all the different career pathways, let the students drive the projects, and then support them as much as possible along their way.
So I know you gave an example there when you were at Santa Barbara about seeing those mentorship programs that exist. So how can academic institutions further support innovation? And what are we really doing well here at the University of Calgary to do that?
So certainly Calgary is doing a fantastic job. I think Professor Larder created this innovation ecosystem, but it's in its infancy right now. It's just starting, but there's a lot of great programs. Like they had the Evolve to Innovate program that provided a little bit of money, but just got students thinking about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. There's the Entrepreneurs in Residence program, which is great for students who've started companies to help support them, guide those waters of, founding shares, how do you do customer engagement, market analysis. Even NSERC, our Natural Science and Engineering Research Council, has created programs like their Lab to Market program, which is great. Provides $20,000 for postdocs, graduate students to, again, do a little market analysis, figure it out, right? Risk-free. And that's one of the big things, is risk-free. Canadians are very risk-averse, so we need some risk-free programs, whereas the United States, they like to take risks. I mean, they have huge support programs as well. So I think Calgary's doing a great job. And where we can go in the future is really more on the student engagement and in the undergraduate level. Start them early. Start talking about lab to fab, commercialization at an early spot, the different career pathways you can have. So then when students go from their first to second to third and fourth year, the majority of them know what they want to do. Can they be entrepreneurs right away? I mean, when you look at everything going on in the US these days with all these YouTube sensations and such, a lot of these kids are young, right? But they're very savvy. They know how to work this new system of social media. So can we get them going early? But then if they need to do some high tech and further develop, they can go to grad school. But we really want them to be the drivers. So I see this as just starting. But one of the biggest challenges we face, though, is our governments. Is quite often our governments are slow on the uptake on funding new and innovative programs. And while NSERC has recognized entrepreneurship and innovation as a new arm of academic research, it's just not funded enough. We need to open our eyes to the governments, to all those funding bodies, that there are different career pathways, and then maybe the metrics of how we judge students should be changed and should be viewed. And that also comes down to our own Faculty of Graduate Studies. Is a thesis necessary these days? So things like that. Can we have alternate theses? Yes, we are doing that here. There are open to these ideas. Changes are being made, but it's going to take some time.
Excellent. Well, Greg, thank you so much for just sharing your thoughts on this and hearing some of your stories and the work that's going to come out of what you're doing with your co-leads in the Institute of Transdisciplinary Scholarship is really exciting, and I think it's just going to be so many more things to come. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, no problem. Thank you for having me.
You can find links in our episode description to learn more about the Institutes for Transdisciplinary Scholarship, as well as the Advanced Functional Materials and Coatings Laboratory. And for more information on how to move your research to impact in the UCalgary innovation ecosystem, visit ucalgary.ca/innovation.